are ways that you can set yourself up to eliminate the CMP exam. The power of being able to actually avoid a CMP exam.
Hi heroes, welcome back. I'm Rachel Hernandez, Communications Manager here at VetComm. We're excited to announce that thanks to our partnership with Veterans InfoTap here on YouTube, we're now going to be able to connect you with his videos and bring you even more great content. The question so many veterans want to know, can you avoid having to take a CMP exam? First, understand that the VA usually requires this exam because there's not enough evidence connecting the condition to service or the severity of the condition is in question. But the risk of having a CMP exam is not being prepared, which means you could lose out on VA benefits. To avoid this, you can hire VetComm to help because we give our clients comprehensive prep before the exam, or you could try to avoid needing it in the first place. Here's Jason with Veterans InfoTap with more.
Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans InfoTap. I'm glad you made it. There are ways that you can set yourself up to eliminate the CMP exam. I recently did a video on this, but I wanted to touch on it again and really front load the power of being able to actually avoid a CMP exam. Now, my last video was about the fact that, well, really, if you don't do certain things, you're still going to get a CMP exam. So what can you do to really make sure that you're supplying enough evidence to the VA so they can actually eliminate your CMP exam? This is really important. Before we jump into it, though, I want to throw out a special thank you to Austin, Mississippi 2280. Austin, Mississippi 2280. Thank you so much for that super comment, super chat. I really do appreciate your support so very much. All right, so back on, let's see, not too long ago, the 10th, I believe, of March 10th, the VA updated its process for VA claims for disability. And we're going to talk about those changes and what you can do to ensure that you can actually eliminate the CMP exam. Very important. So hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every minute watched, every thumbs up really does help to push this information out. So please do that. And if you want to support in other ways, consider being a member. I do my best to get back to members in the comments. Sometimes it takes me a little while, but eventually I'll get there. So I really do appreciate that support as well. All right, so let's talk about, real quick, the potential, I guess, negative impact of a CMP exam by the VA. Well, one, you might not be prepared for it. And so when you show up, you're not really saying all the things that you need to say. And two things can happen. You can either, A, not get service connected because the CMP examiner says it's not likely that it's service connected, and then therefore you will not be service connected. Or you could not give enough information and they say, great, you're service connected, but you got a 0% or a 10% or a 20% or whatever. But the reality is really you probably should have been a 30, a 50, a 70, who knows, as far as the percentage is concerned. So when you're going through the claims process, the number one thing that you should do is put in your intent to file, right? Your intent to file buys you that time. Now you have 12 months to really develop your claim. Now remember that this is the time for you to really say what you need to say with evidence, right? So your evidence is speaking for you. You're filling out the claim form. You're explaining what conditions you're going to file for. So you're putting all this stuff together, a package of evidence for the VA to review. Now, this change in how they process claims is allowing you to provide enough information for the VA to really establish two things. There's two things, not one, two things that you really need to prove. And I would argue more than likely this is what it is. So that way the VA could then eliminate that CMP exam for you. And the things that you need to do with evidence that is solid is extremely important. So the two things you need to prove to the VA to eliminate the CMP exam are service connection, and the second thing is going to be the severity of the condition as it relates to the rating schedule. Okay, who cares if you're saying all these things over here, but none of that stuff is in the rating schedule? They would probably then send you to the C&P exam to figure that out. Now, here is the change, and then we're going to dive into kind of what you can do to appropriately get your claim through, and most likely without a C&P exam. So it says here that generally in claims for service connection, which would be your disability compensation, right? So service connection, for medical evidence of record to be considered adequate for rating purposes, okay? So the evidence that the VA has is adequate for rating purposes. Now, what are we talking about here? What is the rating purposes? Well, the evidence must include sufficient details to determine whether service connection can be established, and if service connection is established, to determine the current level of disability, the severity, right? So it's those two things that you need to prove. It says if the evidence of record includes information sufficient to grant service connection but insufficient to determine the appropriate evaluation, an examination would generally be needed prior to deciding the claim, because they don't know what to rate you. And they say generally. Why? Don't think, well, I might be able to slip it through. No. It's only if there's only a one rating condition. That would be the situation, right? If you were filing for tinnitus, service connection was clear, but you provided nothing regarding the severity. Is it 1 ear, 2 ears, both ears? Is it all the time? Is it like a level 10 or is it like a level 3, right? If you didn't provide any of that stuff, but you did provide the information that A, you're diagnosed for tinnitus, and B, it is absolutely service connected through a nexus letter or whatever it is, the VA is not going to do a C&P exam for you. Why? Because there's only one rating for tinnitus. For tinnitus, there's only one rating. It's 10%. So they're just going to give you the 10% and move on. Now, what does it look like to develop your claim so you can avoid that C&P exam, right? What does it look like? Well, here's the great news. The great news is that the ball is in your court, and you are the arbiter of this information, right? Everything's going to come through you, and you're going to then share it with the VA to support your claim. You're not going to be providing the VA anything that's against you, of course. You're going to provide all the solid information that you have to support the claimed conditions that you have. So that is a huge deal. Now, what you want to do is, again, put in that intent to file. That buys you 12 months. Now you're working with your doctor. Now, here's the, I guess, dilemma. And again, the VA is so nuanced that, everybody's situation is different. So if you have all of your medical care being taken care of from the VA, and you're filing a claim that is for a service-connected condition that you believe is a service-connected condition, and you don't have any hard evidence of in-service treatment, we'll say, for that condition, it's going to be an uphill battle, because you need to now provide evidence that shows that your condition was likely to have manifested during your time in service. For example, migraines, and I love to use migraines because it's something that you could self-treat, right? Same with pain, back issues, that type of stuff. I mean, you pop a bunch of Motrin or Aleve or whatever it is and you move on. So anything that you can self-treat with over-the-counter medications or kind of just suck up and deal with, you probably did when you were in the military. And that's, I guess, a good thing for you while you're in, because you're not being hassled for going to medical, but it's biting you in the foot right now when you're trying to file a claim. So you need to work on several things, right? You're going to get your own statement and write it down explaining, we'll use migraines, why your migraines weren't really, you want to kind of address, right, why your migraines were not documented while you were in service. So you're going to explain about, the environment, about going to medical, that type of stuff, and that you self-treated, you got Motrin or whatever from your corpsman or your medic, and you're going to write that letter out. And then you're going to, ideally, you might have a buddy statement or two from people that you served with If you can't find somebody, Together We Served is a organization. You can Google that, and you might be able to find somebody who could attest to their knowledge of you suffering with whatever the condition was. In this case, I'm using migraines. You could have family members, people that knew you during your time in service that may have witnessed you having migraines after you joined and during that time period of your time in service. So you're getting all those letters. You're also going to get a nexus letter, right? You're going to get a nexus letter because you need to prove medically that your condition is more than likely, ideally, but at least as likely as not to have manifested or as a result of your time in service in some way. Now, if you're working with a VA doctor, they're probably not going to do that. They're probably not going to give you your nexus letter. So you're going to have to seek it somewhere else. If you have a private doctor, you can ask them. Now, you want to work with them and make sure that you button this thing up and you have all the VA legalese and really address the rationale as it relates to your service and that type of stuff. If your doctor can do it, awesome. If your doctor is receptive to you sharing information with them, awesome. Go that route. If your doctor can't, won't, or doesn't, American Medical Experts, free consultation. They're board certified doctors. They can provide you with the information you need by reviewing your records, maybe doing an additional whatever that needs to happen if you need that. And they'll put together a solid rationale based nexus letter for you for your service connection. So that takes care of that first part, which is the service connection piece, right? Now, do you always need a nexus letter? No. It depends on the circumstances. Again, it's so nuanced. If you got diagnosed while you were in service for a condition, right? Like straight up, I got diagnosed for sleep apnea while I was in, right? Then I got out a year later. Okay, well, you got diagnosed, and the date of your diagnosis, the date of your treatment, the date of your prescribed CPAP, whatever it is, was all during your time in service, or part of it, at least the diagnosis part, was during your time in service. If that's the case, whatever condition it is, if that's the case, then guess what? You are already covered as far as Nexus is concerned because your diagnosis was in that time frame of your service. Now, moving on to the severity of the condition. The severity of your condition must, in this circumstance, right? And this is where sometimes your private doctor doesn't get it, okay? What the VA is looking for is the severity of your service, or the severity of, yes, the severity of your condition as it relates to the rating schedule, okay? So, for example, GERD, right, gastroesophageal reflux disease, that rating schedule changed about a year ago. That's the digestive rating schedule, and they changed it. And before, in the old rating schedule, they had 5 or 6 different, maybe even more, might have been 7 different signs, different symptoms, right? Difficulty swallowing, regurgitation, vomit. I can't remember if I said difficulty swallowing, pain in your sternum, pain in your shoulder, loss of weight, maybe blood in your stool, blood in your vomit, those types of things. So, and heartburn on top of that, right? So heartburn, regurgitation, and so on. So all those things. So that's how it used to be. So a bunch of different portions of your symptoms, right? And you would spell that out in your DBQ, disability questionnaire. Well, now, even if you have all of those things, the VA changed the rating schedule, and they don't care really about any of those things except for one, which is difficulty swallowing, and the other that they added is esophageal stricture, which is the tightening of the esophagus. So that's really all they're looking for, and they're looking for the severity of those 2 specific things. So the reason I mention that is if you were sitting there thinking, well, I got, GERD, and I got all these, I sometimes I'll vomit, or I'll have regurgitation, I have heartburn, I have pain in my sternum, all of these things, and you're naming all these things, the VA doesn't really care about all of that. All they care about on the rating schedule is, do you have difficulty swallowing, and do you have esophageal stricture? And how bad are those things, right? That's all they care about. So if you're not addressing what's on the rating schedule, you're not addressing the rating schedule, which means you're going to get the lowest rating, or it means that you're going to end up getting a C&P exam. So make sure that your doctor understands the VA rating schedule and they utilize the disability questionnaire and they implement all of that information regarding your specific situation into that DBQ. Now, again, if your doctor can't, won't, or doesn't, utilize AME, American Medical Experts. They'll go ahead and knock out a DBQ for you as well. Again, board certified doctors, free consultation. Give them a call. Their information's in the description and the comments. In fact, there's a little kind of a sign up form that you just put your information in, and then you can get that free consultation. So if you address those things, right, your service connection, whether it's you were diagnosed when you were in service, which is the smaller percentage, or you have a solid nexus letter and supporting documentation that supports your nexus, solid. You have a DBQ that lists out all of your conditions as it relates to the rating schedule, and you supply all that information with all your other, proof of diagnosis and all that stuff, maybe medications in some cases, the length of time that you've had this condition, been treated for it, that type of stuff. All of that is going to really set you up to be able to have the VA eliminate that C&P exam for you. And now they're just working off the information that you have given them, and you don't have to worry about a C&P exam that goes sideways, or you weren't quite sure, or you weren't quite prepared with how to deal with it. So it really gives you time to take a knee and think about how you want to package your claim. Now, look, you can do it yourself. That's awesome. You can work with an accredited rep. You can work with claims consulting company. You can work with claims agent accredited by the VA. You can work with an attorney. I'm a fan of having a second set of eyes on it. Just make sure that you are, utilizing all of your options out there. Veteran service officers are great. I was a veteran service officer for many years and accredited with the VA. And I get it. Not every area is the same. Some of these offices are very underfunded, and they're a little more reactive than proactive. Others, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of support from the local government, and so we had the appropriate funding to be able to serve the veterans in the right capacity. So it's kind of an area thing, geographical. So look around, see what you can get. A second set of eyes is always good, and having the conversations is good. Keep educating yourself, and hopefully you can get your claim through and awarded appropriately. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.
Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like and share this video with a fellow veteran. We'll see you next time.